Hi folks, Mr. Ackerman here. Topic of this video is how to create black and white conversions using Adobe Camera Raw. So let's get started. I'm going to open up Photoshop on my Mac here. You guys might be working on a PC and you know how to do it there. Now before you go and open anything, remember, stop using File Open. It's not the best way to look for photos. Instead, remember to browse in Bridge. So we're going to launch Bridge, which is a really great way to look for your photos and to get information on them. And I've got all my photos that I want to use today in today's video on my desktop. So I just navigate to wherever they are along here, and then I see them here. If I single click on a photo, of course I get all the information in Bridge. If I hit the space bar, it gets bigger, so I get to see really if I want to use it. I get to look at it carefully up close. Hit the space bar again, it goes down. Right click, open in Camera Raw. So that's what I want you to do from now on. And here we are in Camera Raw, which we're familiar with. Now let's talk a little bit about what it means to convert to black and white. You see, this photo is full of color, but what I want you to think of is not the actual color, but the brightness of each color. For example, here is blue sky behind all these clouds. This blue over here is kind of darker than this blue over here. When I convert to black and white, that's going to mean I get a darker gray and a lighter gray. And in here I can see it's even lighter blue, so that's going to be even lighter. I'll show you what I mean. If I click the black and white button here, watch what happens. This is darker gray, and that's lighter gray, and here is even lighter gray, right? But those used to be blue, but I'm thinking in terms of the brightnesses of those blues. Same goes with the brick. The brick here is kind of orangey. This orange is brighter than this orange, so when we convert to black and white, I get brighter gray, darker gray. The grass is kind of all the same gray, except for a few little highlights here and there from blades of grass that are sticking up. Let's see what they look like in color. Well, you can see they're kind of all the same green. There's a little bit of lighter green or maybe some yellow here and there, but this is mainly the same green. So it's going to be a pretty boring conversion in black and white. And that doesn't mean it's a bad photo, but it's just something to think about. Now, one thing I got to tell you is the black and white button for my version of Photoshop is right here under this tab. But for you guys, I think in your version of Photoshop, you got to go to HSL Adjustments, the fourth button here, and you're going to see a button here that says Convert to Grayscale. You want to click that. Anyway, let's convert to black and white, and then we're actually going to go to this slider area here, the HSL sliders. HSL stands for Highlight, Saturation, and Luminosity. Now, what it's doing here for me is it's just going to adjust the brightness or the luminosity of different colors. So remember how I told you, or you saw that the sky was blue? Watch what happens if I move the blue slider to the left. The sky is getting darker. All the blues are getting darker, but not the oranges that made up the brick and not the green that made up the grass. If I want to adjust that, I can say, go to the orange. Now the bricks get brighter, but the grass stays the same and the blue sky stays the same. And if I go to green for the grass, there that goes. I can make it dark like that. I wonder if yellow does anything. Yeah, it kind of has an effect. There's a little bit of yellow in those bricks and in the grass as well. So the idea here is to play around with these until you have something that you like. And what you like, of course, is up to you. But there are some things that we can all agree on, like we might enjoy really good contrast. So let's look for that. We might enjoy having some interesting transitions of tones from a dark blue to a light blue, now becoming a dark gray to a light gray. You decide what that's going to be, and then you tweak it by going back to the basic tab here. You know, for example, you want to add some contrast. We always add some contrast, or almost always. See, that still works here, and it makes the photo kind of dramatic. And I usually go to about 15 or 20 points. The highlights are not too blown out here, but this area is a little bit bright, so I'm going to bring that down, bring that under control a little bit. And the shadow region, there aren't really too many shadowy regions that I need to reveal here. I'm just going to see, what does this do? And it kind of washes out the photo a bit, so I'm probably not going to touch it too much. The whites, for example, well, if I go opposite the highlights, I'm kind of defeating the purpose of bringing down the highlights, so I'm probably just going to leave those where they are. I often like to move the black slider to the left. It gives me really rich, deep tones. See what's happening up here in the roof region? If I move the black slider this way, it starts to get grayed out. But if I move it down, it gets really, really interesting, contrasting against the sky. Finally, you can move the clarity slider, but don't go too crazy on it. If you go too crazy, it starts to look really, really fake and overdone. Although some people like this. It kind of looks like maybe a cartoon movie of some sort. And if you go too far this way, everything becomes really foggy and kind of dreamlike, but not too interesting, I don't think. So you might add a little bit of clarity. And finally, I believe you guys in your version of Photoshop have a preview button somewhere up here. Mine is down here. So when I do this, I see what I started with and where I ended up. And maybe you like the color version better, but the black and white one is certainly interesting. So you know what? Why don't you go Shift, Open Object. Now we're going to open in Photoshop. And then you can, of course, save this as one version of the photo, which will be black and white. And then you can always double click here and go back here and edit this in color and then open it and then save that as something that's going to be in color. Now I have to, go back here. I'm not quite sure why it didn't open this in color, which is what I had asked it to do. I might need to go to the Camera Raw defaults by clicking this button here, reset it, and start over again. So I hope that works. But anyway, that's not really the point of the video. You know how to open photos and edit them in color. I hope you enjoy your black and white editing. Try a whole bunch of different photos of yours to see what looks good and what doesn't really work so well. And I bet you're going to find some surprises. Some photos that you thought were kind of boring are going to really pop and be amazing. And some photos that you thought would look great in black and white might not be so interesting. It's all a matter of learning to see in black and white. So go and start editing your favorite photos, maybe pick 5 or 10, and I'll see you in class. Thanks for watching.